You open your laptop and you intend to start. That's always how it begins, with the intention. The tab is there, the document is there, the deadline is real. And then, somehow, 20 minutes pass on nothing. Not sleep, not rest, just a kind of frictionless drift. You check something that didn't need checking. You reorganize a folder that wasn't bothering anyone. You make a coffee that takes slightly too long to make. None of this was planned. It wasn't even a decision. That's the part that confuses people most about procrastination. They think it's laziness. They think it's a character flaw. They think the person who delays just doesn't care enough. But you care. That's often exactly the problem. You care enough that starting feels genuinely dangerous. Because starting means producing something that can be judged. And your brain, without asking you, has done the math. The discomfort of beginning outweighs the discomfort of waiting. So it quietly steers you somewhere easier, somewhere lower stakes. This isn't a failure of willpower, it's a protection system. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing what it was built to do. It is built to move you away from pain, toward relief. And right now, the task feels like a form of threat. Not a real threat, not danger in the original sense, but something that triggers the same avoidance circuitry anyway. The empty page, the blank screen, the expectation sitting on it. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish cleanly between those pressures. It just notices, this is uncomfortable, and then it redirects. That redirection is what procrastination actually is, underneath the surface. It's not delay for delay's sake, it's emotional regulation. Specifically, it's regulating the anxiety that comes before difficult work. The task isn't just a task, it carries something attached to it. Fear of doing it wrong, fear of it revealing something about you, fear that once you start, you'll find out you can't do it. So you don't start. And for a moment, the fear quiets. That relief is the problem, because relief teaches the brain something. It teaches the brain that avoidance works, and things that work tend to get repeated. This is the loop, not moral failure, not character weakness. A feedback system that learned the wrong lesson and kept repeating it. The tab stays open, the task waits, the relief doesn't last. Then the guilt arrives, then the self-criticism, then the shame. And shame, for most people, does not make starting easier. It makes the task feel heavier and more loaded than before. So now you're not just avoiding the task, you're avoiding the shame. And the brain, still doing its job, steers you away again. Another distraction, another loop, another hour quietly disappearing. This is why willpower doesn't fix it, not reliably and not for long. You can't willpower your way out of a feedback loop you don't see. The loop has a texture. It feels specific on an ordinary day. It's the phone picked up before the work even loads. It's the inbox checked not because you expect something, but because checking feels like doing. It's the notes app full of plans that never became actions. It's the playlist adjusted 3 times before a single sentence is written. These aren't random distractions. They share one quality. They give you a sense of movement without actual exposure. You feel productive enough to ease the guilt temporarily, but not productive enough to finish anything that actually matters. This is what researchers call the intention-action gap. You intend, you plan, you prepare, you delay, you intend again. The cycle can run for days without you noticing how long it's been. And the task grows in your mind the longer you don't touch it. This is something people rarely talk about clearly enough. Procrastination doesn't freeze the task, it inflates it. Every day you don't start, the thing becomes slightly larger in your imagination. The report that was manageable on Monday feels monstrous by Thursday, not because the work changed, because the avoidance accumulated. Your brain has been thinking about it without doing it, and thinking about something difficult, repeatedly, without resolution, builds dread. So the gap between you and the task actually widens over time. Starting on Thursday requires more courage than starting on Monday did. That's one of the quiet costs of this loop that people underestimate. There's also a second layer beneath the avoidance that's worth naming. For a lot of people, procrastination is connected to perfectionism, not in the way people usually mean it, not about being meticulous. It's the belief that the output needs to be good before it exists. That drafts don't count, that attempts don't count, that only finished, polished things count. So the brain holds back until conditions feel right for something excellent. And conditions rarely feel right. So you wait, and wait, and wait. The perfectionism isn't about quality, it's about protection. If you never fully start, you never fully fail. The unfinished thing can always be blamed on timing, on circumstance, on not being ready. But a finished thing? A finished thing can be looked at directly. It can be found lacking. And that exposure is what the brain is really avoiding. So you stay in the comfortable in-between, present but not committed, thinking but not producing, preparing but not beginning. It feels safer there, and in a narrow, immediate sense, it is. The problem is the narrow, immediate sense is not where your life actually happens. Your life happens in the accumulated weight of what you did and didn't do. And the pattern, left alone, has a cost that compounds quietly. Missed deadlines, half-built things, good ideas that stayed in your notes app, a growing sense that you're capable of more than you're actually producing. That gap between what you know you can do and what you're doing is not neutral. It tends to become a quiet source of shame that sits underneath everything. Not loud shame, not dramatic shame, just a low background hum. The kind that makes it harder to feel settled, even in unrelated moments. The kind that makes the next task feel even more loaded before you've started. So what actually breaks the loop, if willpower doesn't reliably do it? Not motivation. Motivation arrives after starting, not before. Most people have this backwards. They wait to feel ready. They wait for the moment it feels natural to begin. That moment, for a brain running this pattern, often doesn't come, because the brain has learned that waiting produces relief, and it will keep producing that relief until the cost gets high enough. The shift isn't motivational, it's structural. It's about reducing the size of the threat. Your brain is avoiding the task because the task feels too large and too loaded, so you make it smaller. Not the deadline, not the goal, the entry point. Not write the report, write one paragraph, just one, badly if needed. Not start the project, open the file, just open it and look at it. The brain's avoidance system responds to perceived size, not actual size. A smaller entry point triggers less threat. Less threat means less redirection. This isn't a trick. It's working with the actual mechanism, not against it. There's something else worth knowing about how this pattern runs. The discomfort you feel before starting usually peaks before you begin. Once you're 2 or 3 minutes into the work, it often drops significantly. The dread is mostly anticipatory. It lives in the space before contact, which means the worst moment is almost always right before you start. And the brain, trying to protect you, keeps you exactly in that worst moment. Avoidance doesn't eliminate the discomfort. It just keeps you standing in front of it. Starting, even badly, even slowly, moves you through it. That's not inspiration. That's just how the timing of discomfort actually works. For a lot of people, naming this loop, honestly, is already something. Not because naming it fixes it. It doesn't. Not automatically. But because the shame attached to procrastination often rests on a misunderstanding. The misunderstanding that you're lazy, that you don't care, that something is wrong with you. When often what's happening is a protection system doing its job too aggressively. Seeing it clearly changes the relationship you have with it slightly. You stop fighting your character and start noticing a pattern. And patterns, unlike character, can shift with small, repeated changes over time. One honest thing before this ends. If your procrastination is connected to something heavier, to persistent low mood, to anxiety that doesn't lift, to a sense of being genuinely stuck in your life, that's worth talking to someone real about, not a video, not reflection alone. This is made for recognition and honest thinking, not as a substitute for actual support. But if the pattern is the ordinary kind, the kind that shows up on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind that turns 1 hour into 3 without drama or crisis, the place to start is smaller than you think. Not a new system, not a better routine, not a fresh mindset. Just the file, just the first sentence, just 2 minutes of actual contact. Your brain will resist. That resistance is not evidence that you can't do it. It's evidence that the protection system is working exactly as designed. The question is whether you're going to let a protection system make your decisions, or whether today, just today, you open the thing and begin.